WLS special headset. What does WLS stand for? Well, come on, you Chicagoans.
Trick or treat, I have some candy. Trick or treat, where is my candy?
There's an old curiosity shop. Every once in a while I go by there for the fond recollections that lie there in that old curiosity shop.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott from the Old Curiosity Shop. Welcome back and thanks for watching. I'm in the line waiting to get a coffee. I left early this morning and it took me about an hour to get way up here into the rolling hills of Bucks County. I'm going to attend an estate sale. Now, I already went and signed up. I'm number 11. Watch, they only let 10 people in, you know, and the first 10 people get the good stuff, and then I'm number 11. Well, we'll see. They might let, 15 people in, and then I'll be one of the first. It's a house jam-packed. The first thing I noticed were a couple of very old antique radios from the early days in the early to mid-20s. So I'm hoping I can land those. But if there's a radio guy that gets in there before me, I'm sunk. There were many other things, and I'll try to do some filming, but you know, as it is, it can be very difficult to film in estate sales. No matter what, I'll be looking for treasures, and whatever I find, I'm going to share it with you. So let's get through this coffee line and get this show on the road. I'm excited. Well, everyone, those are the attic steps that lead down to the garage. And I've made my way up into the attic, which is over top of the garage. It's somewhat overwhelming, because this estate is just filled. Look, tossed right here is this wonderful Art Deco. You cannot but see it. Oh, I know you can't see it. Look at this. This is a Radiola model. And I don't know. Yeah, that's an old Radiola. I know you... Ooh. Boy, this is going to need a lot of restoration. Well, we'll see about that in a minute. There's Victorian furniture back here. Look at all of this newspaper. That looks like the springs to a crib. Oh my word. I'm ducking. I have to keep my head down because of the low ceiling. And Bible talks for children. Oh my goodness. Maybe I'll find some dollhouse furniture. You can't even... Good grief. It's almost to the point where you just can't... You don't even know what you're looking at. Notebooks. Look at this. I can't even imagine. I don't know what that is. Oh, pardon me. I'm not going to be able to do too much filming in here, I don't think. Obviously, this is difficult. Anyway, here I am in this attic. I had one set of grandparents that had an attic like this, but it wasn't quite, it was full, but you could get around. Okay, you're all dreaming to be in a place like this. And the rest of the floors are just crazy covered with stuff. Let me see, let me take a closer look. There looks like there's some severe water damage on this radio, so we may have to leave it. I try very hard to be respectful in someone's space like this. very, very difficult. It can be difficult. I know in the past I haven't really enjoyed these estate sales, but I've come to terms with it. View things a little bit differently. Here we go. That's what I need. Target's the gray. That's what I need. I don't know. I might be beyond that. Well, I have some antique radios that I am excited about, which I'm going to be showing you in a little bit. I can't say that I'm buying much more than that. Not really doing a whole lot of buying here for a resale. I think the things that I bought today are going to be personal items to keep. It is a little on the pricey side. Well, I've moved up to the second floor level, and I think I can maneuver a little bit better up here, although it's quite dark. Oh, I wish you could see this. It's actually two great big beautiful old Empire style chests. Can you see those? With their glass knobs. My goodness. Well, I'm back from the estate sale. I went digging in the basement, and I'm happy to say I rescued these two pieces of very early radio equipment. Okay. We'll wait till that car speeds on by. Now these two pieces are a filthy mess. This one over here looks something like a cash register. We've got 3 vacuum tubes sticking out of the top. The veneer here on the side is basically trashed. That's in really bad shape. So we've got a lot of cabinetry work to do, but this is a hard to find, I'm not going to go so far as to say rare radio, but it's one that you're not going to run into every day. It dates to about 1924, and this is the era where radio manufacturers are still not quite sure what is a radio actually supposed to look like in order to get homemakers to accept it in their front parlor as a piece of household furniture. And this doesn't look anything like the radios that we became accustomed to in the 1930s. In the back is where the batteries would sit. And you've got all these different cables here so that you can operate the different voltages that you need. And this is called a TRF tuned radio frequency set. So you have a detector and two stages of amplification. Look at these wonderful old original tubes. That's amazing. Yep, got to do some cabinetry work. It's called a wave Neutrodyne receiver. The set is a Ware Neutrodyne receiver type T. I'll let you see the tag here on the front. They're fussy to tune. They were very sensitive machines, battery operated. This is before the super heterodyne circuitry was available by RCA. And when it was available, you needed to pay quite a bit of money to have the license to do it. So many companies were making these sets, which was a slightly more primitive type of chassis design. But there it is, around 1924, and this awful looking thing next to it, well, that's an antenna. Now this, people would piece radios together. You'd buy your radio, you'd buy your loudspeaker or your horn, and you could buy an antenna and headphones from different companies. They didn't all come together in one, necessarily in one shot. This is a Radiola loop antenna, which is an RCA product. I believe you can see right there. We can see January the 21st, 1908 is the patent, but this was actually made in the early 1920s, this particular loop antenna. And this was designed to sit in your home on top of a table Okay, and of course it's all come unwired. I'm going to have to do a lot of restoration on that, but we can do that and get it looking good again. And this is the way you could hook up your antenna if you didn't have an outside aerial on your house, and you were all set. Now the only thing we're missing from this are headphones or a loudspeaker, and this little set here probably could not drive, probably only drove a horn speaker. There was a horn in the basement of this house, but it was in horrible condition and I didn't buy it. But let me show you an Atwater Kent speaker that I bought. And I certainly apologize if there is noise from the wind. As you can see, I'm outdoors. So now we've got an Atwater Kent speaker that I'm pretty certain was not being used with this radio. This wouldn't have the umption and the gumption to drive a speaker like this. We would actually need one of the old-fashioned horn speakers. And as I said, there was one in the basement. And I've got horn speakers that I can hook up to this, and it would work just fine with a set of that age. The Atwater Kent is a 1920s speaker as well. It's a Model E. I've got to do a lot of work on it. But the beautiful thing is the cone, there's no damage on the cone, and I don't know whether you can see, even with just this little bit of wind we have out here, the cone is floating right inside the frame as it should. Do you see that? This is a paper cone. All right, and it's supposed to be floating in there just as it is. No problems with the cone at all. Now, we're going to have to get inside of it and see what the condition is, but 3 early, somewhat primitive pieces of our radio history, and all made right here in this area. The Atwater Kent made right here in Philadelphia. Of course, the RCA Radiola piece right here. We all know about the RCA Corporation and how they joined forces with Victor over in Camden, New Jersey, and this of course was made in New York, the Ware radio set right here. So what did I pay? I paid $50 each, and I was thrilled to do so. What are they worth? In good working order, that's about a $150 speaker. About $100 there, in good shape on the antenna. This I need to do more work on. Clearly $200 or more on this. Even though I'm going to have to re-veneer this side of the cabinet, we're going to be able to preserve the front. Okay, and I think we can squeeze something out of the top. Okay, so that was fun. I also found some Halloween die cuts, and they're old. Let's go take a look at them. Alright, I know I promised I was done talking about it, but I'm only going to talk a little bit more. All I've done now is just wipe it down. What a difference. We have this fantastic, I believe this is a Bakelite panel here on the front. It looks glossy because I've wiped it down. That water's going to evaporate and it's not going to be so glossy, but we're all going to bring it back to something that looks like this. So we can now clearly see the 2 tuning capacitors here. And this is where we engage the batteries. And this is your jacks here for headphone or horn speaker. Or both. We could probably drive both. And then up here they clearly have the long antenna, the short antenna, and the ground. And the reason why the tubes are sort of just, they look like they're floating in there, the plate that they're on was actually held in place with, it was held in place with some rubber tubing, which has dry rotted. So we're going to have to refabricate that, and this tube is loose here. But there it is, starting to clean it up. You can see we'll have a nice cabinet. Now this side we can keep. The front is in good shape. My lighting isn't very good, and I'm going to actually repair this veneer on the top. But the veneer on this side is in such bad shape, you can't see it, that I'm probably going to just trash this and cut myself a nice little mahogany piece of veneer for that side, and we'll be done with it. And that's where the batteries go in the back. I'm going to say one final thing. I'm glad I got it before the steampunkers. That might not be a very popular thing to say. Steampunkers have a lot of imagination and wonderful creativity. But I'm telling you, a steampunker would get a hold of this. They would rip the tubes out. They'd stick light bulbs in here. I've seen it done. They would have this as your light bulb to turn the light bulbs on. They'd probably stick a Bluetooth radio in there or something, and we would lose the wonderful antique electronics. So I'm all about preservation, not destruction. Oh, I don't want to speak ill of steampunk. I really don't, because it is a creative person who can do that kind of thing, and they make some wonderful art. I think it's great to do it out of found objects, but when you've got an object like this that has survived intact, unaltered, please don't destroy it by turning it into a desk lamp or something. Okay? All right, I'll get off that kick. Don't get mad at me, steampunkers. We can get along. Just don't mess with old radios, please. Well, I have to tell you, after I got home and started to clean the radio up a little bit and started to think about it some more, I thought, you know what, I'm going to head back to that estate sale the next day, and I'm going to dig around in that basement a little bit more. Maybe I can come up with some other fantastic radio parts. And aren't I glad I did? Because now I have been able to outfit this thing. Now the house that I was in, that estate sale, that house dates to pre-1920. And so this very well may have been the first radio set purchased ever by the family who lived there at that time. Because I literally have found everything. When I was there the first time, I did see the horn in the basement, but there was no driver. The horn just actually sits down. I'm not going to try to pull it out now, but it sits down here into the driver. And the horn was just by itself, and I didn't buy it. But after going back, I went back to the basement, and I said, well, let me grab this horn, and I said, but I'm looking for the driver into which it fits. And the lady said, well, I just found this thing. And I said, I cannot believe it. You just dug this out of a box? She did. There it is. That's the original old horn made in Newark, New Jersey. It's called a Mozart Grand. And so this, as I said, this little set here could drive a horn speaker, and also there was a wonderful set of original headphones, and this is how we listened to radio in those days. And how many of you know WLS special headset? What does WLS stand for? Well, come on, you Chicagoans. That's right, world's largest store. And that was Sears and Roebuck Company, and they had a radio station. Of course, all the big companies and department stores had their own radio stations in those early days. WLS Chicago, and you could get WLS headsets. So these are original to the time of this radio. We're talking about 1923, 4, 5, 6, those early days when we didn't have the ability to amplify electrodynamic speakers, and we had to listen through what's basically a telephone receiver here. It's basically what that is. And also we amplified radio through these acoustic horns. Now this is just a cardboard. You can see where I'm going to have to do the restoration. It's just a composite. Come on now. It's just a cardboard composite. And they've sprayed this stippled, speckled black paint over the top. You could get them sometimes with gold highlights on there, but the horns were usually black or brown. And you can just imagine the lady of the house probably wasn't too thrilled when her husband came home with this monstrosity and said, find a spot in the parlor. it's going to take a while before we get from this awkward looking thing to the nice cabinets that look more like furniture that we see in the 1930s. Well, there it is, put back together again and in need of full restoration, but it's in my hands now and it will be preserved forever as a piece of radio history. Okay, now let's go look at some vintage Halloween. I wonder if I can still get Bing Crosby on this thing. Well, at least Ruth Edding. Okay, back inside now, safe and sound from that estate sale. I did not bang my head on the rafters in that tiny little attic over top of the garage. But so excited about the antenna, the radio, the speaker, all of that stuff. And there's even more to show you, which I'm not going to do today. What I do want to show you now is some. Normally I would just say old Halloween, but we're going to say antique Halloween. Now it's not quite 100 years old, but we're getting very close. So extremely collectible. I've got it all right here in my lap. Wow, I never find pre-war Halloween. I don't even hardly ever find 1950s, 60s, 70s Halloween, and it's amazing even the 1970s and 80s Halloween is bringing super duper prices. Such a collectible field. You already know that. Most of what I've got right here is either going to be Beistel or Lures. We'll talk about those two names in a minute. And I think I've got one that's German, maybe two. Well, the Beistel Company was founded in just outside of Pittsburgh. I'm pointing in the direction of Pittsburgh from where I'm sitting. I'm in Philadelphia, in case you don't know. So I'm pointing to the west, towards Pittsburgh. Martin Luther Beistel, there's a good old German for you. Founded his company in 1900. And then at some point it moved to not too far from here. It's where one of the universities is. Shippensburg University. It's part of the state system. So they moved from Pittsburgh to Shippensburg. I should drive up there and take you on a tour. It's a beautiful town, college town. And he continued to manufacture decorations. Now you'll often find Lures. I think it's spelled L-U-H-E-R-S. That was his son-in-law, and when Beistel died in, I think, 35, either ownership or directorship or something went to the son-in-law, and he started putting his last name on some of the items as well. It's my understanding that the business is still run by descendants of Martin Luther Beistel, and not too long ago, they started their vintage Beistel. They started re-releasing some of the old die cuts. And what were the very first holiday items made by Beistel in the 1920s? It wasn't Christmas, it wasn't Thanksgiving, and it wasn't Valentine's Day. It was Halloween. And here in America, we really have the Beistel Company to thank for promoting, I shouldn't say the word promoting, but it's one of the reasons why Halloween decorations became so popular. We weren't really doing a whole lot of Halloween decorating. Boy, it took off. And you can look up all of that history. But you do want to, if you want to buy the old, there are some tips. And I am not a Halloween collector. Well, maybe I am now. And I'm not an expert on this, but there are some quick ways to sort of have an idea whether we're talking old or new. And what we've got here is old. I'm going to start off with probably the most valuable ones that I've got and the rarest that I have. And I'm going to just show you each example. Now, as I said, if they're marked, I'll try to tell you. Sometimes it's just going to say made in USA. Sometimes it'll have Lures, or sometimes it'll have Beistel on it. Let's look at this this way. We have a wonderful cat sitting on the moon, mouse sitting on the moon. Yeah. And I don't know what I don't know why the cat has rope. I guess he's trying to hang the mouse. It looks like he's made a noose. So I'm not sure, but that's clearly, this is This is one that, I don't know if this dates back to the 20s, but we're absolutely pre-war here. This has to be probably at least a 1930s piece. And look at the condition on it. I don't have just one of these, I have two. I think the second one is, I don't know where the second one is. I think the second one is deeper in this pile. When I get down to it, I'll show you. So I have two examples of this, both in the same condition. One of these sold in August for $200. I'll tell you in a minute how much I paid for everything that I bought. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to get $200 for mine. A lot of people, oh, you ought to see what it went for on eBay. Well, okay, but some, size, condition, whether it was a buy it now, whether shipping was included, there's nuance, and you got to do a little more digging than that. So, but one did sell for $200 just this last August. I'm just saying. Wow. Let's go ahead and talk about old new. Nothing on the back. I don't think it's really until, and I could be wrong on this, I did check some references, and the references that I checked is that usually we're into the early, maybe late 70s, early 80s before this type of decoration is double-sided. So the old stuff is going to be single-sided, and it will be embossed. Okay, that was very typical for decorations from 1900 into the 1960s. And we can see that that it's raised here or embossed. You just can clearly see it. And sometimes there are hints, other hints that tell you whether it's old or new. So there's one. Here's the second one of the same era. Take a look at this one. And again, we've got an embossed cat screaming at the moon, howling at the moon, and someone has thrown a boot up there, I guess to quiet down the cat. Which anyone who has a cat knows that they're not going to be quiet if you throw a boot at them. I don't recommend throwing a boot. I would never suggest throwing anything at a cat. But look at the condition on that. Look at the condition. Normally they're just covered in old yellow Scotch tape. You've got where people have ripped the tape off and you've lost some of the coloring. You've got bends. Now we'll have little bends, and there are a few pieces of tape, but you can hardly see that. It's just one little piece at the bottom. This is probably going to be another $100 piece right there. Here is a big, well, he's not that big. Here is a Lourdes skeleton. Okay, so we know this is sometime after 1935. I'll try to get him completely unfolded for you. We can't get him all in there. And I'd like to show you the marks. He's marked right here under his, whatever that bone is, zich pelvis. And his head has never come off. Now he's not embossed, he is one-sided. So he may be, I'm not sure how old he is. And here is the wonderful, you remember this one, the winking owl. And he probably goes into the 1940s, this one. Again, we see it's embossed, and it's one-sided. He's nice and big, and to go with him, now this is the second one of these I have. I have another one of these that I bought last year. We have the big screaming cat, and these are the same size. Okay, and they're both in the same wonderful condition. There's nothing ripped. We've got the tips of both of his ears there. It's just the condition on these is unbelievable. Here's another black cat that probably dates to the 1940s rather than anything earlier than that. He could be the 50s. I don't have a book, and I didn't look any of these up. So he's wonderful. And I love on the back, are you familiar with the 5 and dime store called Murphy's? We had one in the little town I grew up in. But there's an original sticker there that says Murphy's 15 cents. So, he's great. I love this pumpkin. And he is fierce. this is just, I could not believe. Now, I paid. Okay, I didn't walk out of there paying 15 cents a piece for these. I paid, but I didn't pay nearly what I know they're worth on the resale market, on the collectible market. He's in great shape. He's also embossed, and he is USA. As I said, there's also Denison, so, but his condition is fantastic. We can see again. And it's just, you know, it's that old, the cardboard has that smell to it, you know, and you can just, the colors are muted. You just know when you look at them. This guy here is also a Beistel, and he is a stand-up cat. So on the back, one of his hind legs folds out and enables you to actually stand him up on a table. Now, he might be the newest out of everybody here. He's still not one of the new reproductions. He is an old one, but he actually may be, and I don't know, I could be wrong. If you're an expert and you know, he could be a 50s cat. I'm not really sure about him, but I know he's not one of the reproductions. Here is the second. Remember I said I had 2 of these? Here's the second one. in perfect, well, not perfect, but in excellent condition. I might have $400 in just these 2. This one and the one that looks just, and the one that matches it. If they sell for what the other one did. This one also says Lures, and he's a funny little pumpkin head. So we know this is after 1935, but I feel this is pre-war. It has a pre-war look to it. It's embossed, of course. We've got the sun coming in now. He's a little one, and he's not cut there. I mean, I looked very closely at that. I can see that this is how it came out of the die when it was cut. And let's see. Here's another one that is not that easy to find, and this is also pre-war. Are you believing all of these? Are you believing it? She has the top of her hat, which is often broken off because this is where it was hung. But there it is. She's got mice on her hat. I guess that's the moon behind her. And this is huge. And this one, you don't find these in much better condition than this. And finally, a German piece. The German pieces are very highly collectible, and we had a lot of those in this country in the 1920s as well. And here he is, this big, he's a nice big pumpkin head. And that's 9 inches from, that's a span of 9 inches right there, so figure it out. That's a big one. Ooh. And we have the original paper on the back, so that when the light comes in from the back, which you're not seeing it because the sun is coming in the other way, his mouth and his eyes glow, and his little nose. And it does say Germany right here. It's embossed on there. The German ones are very thickly embossed. I mean, that's so incredible. I don't know how many are down there. Are there 10 of them there? I paid $130 for what I just dropped on the floor. And as I said, just that one, of which I have 2, sold in August for $200. So I'm very confident that I've got, on the low end, about $500 worth of vintage Halloween ornaments there. I'd say between 5 and 8. You know, who knows? Because I didn't really dupe. Once I found that one that sold for $200, I went, woo! So I was happy to pay the $130 to get all of them. Now, keep them, sell them. I want to keep them. I got to think about it. I'm not going to sell them now. Now would be the wrong time to sell them. Hold on. I know vintage holiday collectibles sell year-round, and they do. But if there's any time of the year when the hype over a certain holiday is at its lowest, it's probably just a few days after that holiday is over, right? I mean, who's thinking about buying Christmas decorations 2 days after Christmas? So I think I would be better to hold on to those if I'm going to sell them and wait until next September when people are starting to gear up and get their vintage decorations out. I think I'd get better prices then. Just my thoughts. I could be wrong. Who knows? But I'm not sure I want to sell them because I love them. Okay, blah, blah, blah. I just did 15 minutes on those ornaments, and the video is probably already half an hour long. I'm going to be back this week. I've got to finish up the old Ronson lamp and get that fabric in there. We're going to go back and fiddle with that dollhouse some more. I think we have one day this week that's going to hit 65 degrees. I'll be outside with short pants on, working on something. And hopefully I'll take you with me. Okay, that's it. I hope you're having a great day. I'm Scott from the Old Curiosity Shop saying, wait for the cat. So long for now. Oh, is it too late for me? Is it too early for me to put my Halloween decorations up? Woo-hoo, I know it's too late.